Hi everyone, in this little video I just want to go into a little bit more detail about what the establishment survey number on jobs each month means and what it doesn't mean, and talk about a different survey, the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, otherwise known as JOLTS. As I said before, the establishment survey, it's a survey of a large number of firms, about 400,000, and every month they give us information about what's happened to total employment in the United States. And in March 2013, total employment increased by about 138,000 people. So this is total private employment, or total non-farm employment, increased by 138,000. That includes government jobs, it includes workers for IBM, school teachers, etc. Everything other than government employees. Alright, now what that number, some people look at that and think, oh, 180,000 or 138,000 people increased or gained employment that month. And that's not quite what it means. That number doesn't mean nobody lost a job during the month of March 2013, and it doesn't mean exactly 138,000 people gained jobs in March 2013. What it means is on net, or the net increase in employment in March 2013 was 138,000. So if you think about the labor market in the United States, even in the best of times, people are constantly losing their jobs. Some businesses fail even in great times. Some people quit even when the labor market's quite strong and the economy is booming. So there's a lot of job separations that happen even in the best of economic times. And even in the worst of economic times, some firms are expanding employment. Some new businesses start, some existing firms expand. So some people are gaining employment even in the worst of economic times. So every single month, some businesses open, so people lose jobs. Some businesses close, so people lose jobs. Some businesses open or expand, so people gain jobs. So there's actually a tremendous amount of what we call turnover in the labor market in the United States every month. And it turns out there's actually millions of people who gain jobs every month, and there's millions of people who lose jobs every month for whatever reason. But what the establishment survey showed us in March 2013, once you considered everyone who gained jobs and once you considered everyone who loses jobs, you came up with a number of about 138,000 increase in employment. Okay? The other survey I mentioned, that JOLTS survey, does a better job of looking at the gross flows. So if 138,000 is a net increase, you can think of the JOLTS survey as telling us the gross number of people who gained jobs and the gross number of people who lost jobs. And for March 2013, and this is from the JOLTS survey, actually I should probably just go ahead and erase that. So this is from the JOLTS survey. Why did I do that again? I should capitalize it all. JOLTS survey. Now this is a much smaller survey than the establishment one. It has, I think it's in the tens of thousands of firms rather than 40,000 firms in the establishment survey. And so that's going to have an important implication in the end. But what we have here is in the total number of people hired. So you can think of these as job gains in March 2013, according to the JOLTS survey, was 4,259,000. In other words, it wasn't 138,000 people who gained jobs in March 2013. It was 4,259,000 people found employment. Okay? Now, how many people either lost their job because the business was closed or they left voluntarily for whatever reason? Well, the separation, according to the JOLTS survey, was 4,231,000. Okay? So that means in a recovering economy, 4,231,000 people lost their job for some reason. They were either fired, or they were let go because the business was downsizing, or they left to find some other better job opportunity. Turns out if you go into the report, it's about 1.7 million workers lost their job in March 2013 because they were fired for some reason, or they were let go because the business either failed or was contracting. All right. So even in a recovering economy, you can have millions of people losing their jobs because their business is failing, and millions of people leaving their job for whatever reason, to go back to school, to get a better job, to search for a better job, to move across the country, to follow a spouse, or something along those lines. So what the JOLTS survey is telling us, during March 2013, millions of people were finding jobs, and millions of people were separating from their jobs for whatever reason. And according to the JOLTS survey, the net change, which is the number of people hired minus the number of people leaving their job for whatever reason, was, so net change was plus 18,000. Right? Now notice that's not the same numbers from the establishment survey. So if you were using the JOLTS survey to calculate the number of jobs gained or created, quote unquote, created in March 2013, you would come up with 18,000, okay? Which is a much, much smaller number than the millions of people who gained employment or who were hired, and the millions of people who left their job for whatever reason. The establishment survey is also a net change in employment, except with the establishment survey, we don't see how many people lost jobs and how many people gained jobs. We just know in the beginning of the month there was X number of employment, and at the end of the month there was 138,000 more, so we'll say jobs gained for March 2013 was 138,000. The JOLTS survey, we'll get a little bit more information. We know the millions of people who were hired, and we know the millions of people who left their jobs for whatever reason. The net change in employment is the difference between those two numbers. Okay? Now notice the numbers are actually quite different. 138,000 in March 2013, 18,000 or 138,000 in the establishment survey, and only 18,000 in the JOLTS survey. So why the difference? Well, as I said before, the establishment survey is a survey of several hundred thousand firms. I believe the number is around 400,000 firms. So it's an extremely comprehensive survey, which is great. But what you don't get with that extremely comprehensive survey is data on how many people lost their job and how many people gained their job. You just get the net change in number of jobs. With the JOLTS survey, you get the detail of the gross job flows, the number of people hired, the number of people leaving for whatever reason. And you do get a net change in this case of 18,000. Normally, if we care about what's happened to total employment in the economy, we're going to go with the establishment survey just because it's so much larger than the JOLTS survey. And as a result, we think that the establishment survey gives us a much more reliable indicator of what's happened to total employment from month to month. In other words, the net change in total employment from month to month. However, if you want to understand what's the dynamics of the labor market and understand just the gross value of all the jobs created and the gross value of all the jobs destroyed in 1 month, then you can't look at the establishment survey. You've got to go ahead and look at the JOLTS survey. And so one thing to take away from this, like even in the worst parts of the most recent financial crisis and recession that started in 2007 and lasted till June 2009, millions of people were finding jobs every month. It was maybe employment fell that month by 500,000, but that didn't mean nobody found the job that month and 500,000 people lost it. It just means millions of people found jobs and millions of people lost jobs, and it's just 500,000 more people lost jobs than found them. So even in the worst of times, every month, millions of people are finding jobs, and even in it's just that more people are losing jobs each month in poor economic times than are finding them. Likewise, March 2013, the U.S. is in a recovery. There was an increase in the number of jobs in the United States, but that doesn't mean nobody lost a job. It just means the number of people who were hired was larger than the number of people who lost their job for whatever reason. All right, that's the last little video that I plan on doing on unemployment. The next one's going to be about inflation.